My name's Tori, if we haven't met yet. I'm Tori Vallon. I'm a women's integrative nutrition and lifestyle coach. I'm also a functional weight loss specialist. I specialize in working with perimenopausal and menopausal women. I'm a hormones educator. It is so nice to have you with me. But let's get on to today's topic. A lot of women are sleeping, 8 hours and feeling like they're doing the right thing, and they're still waking up feeling like they got hit by a truck, and they're very confused. They're wondering is it always going to be like this? Am I always going to wake up exhausted? Is this just what it's like now that I've hit perimenopause or menopause? And they try to sleep more, but none of it touches the exhaustion. So what I would like you to understand by the end of this session is that the problem was never how long you slept. We've actually got hormonal mechanisms going on here. And it's whether or not your body's doing the work while you're sleeping. It's kind of like this night shift going on in your body. So let's dive right in and start talking about why you wake up feeling so tired after 8 hours, right? We're going to be talking about the cortisol rhythm here. So it's understandable that women would think that if they just sleep more, they just maybe I'll just take some magnesium or I'll take a little melatonin, maybe my sleep will be deeper, will feel better, and they don't feel any better. That won't work because your body has a hormonal rhythm. And the most important rhythm I want to talk about today, this kind of daily curve that happens, is this cortisol rhythm. Cortisol should be at its very lowest in the evening, just before you fall asleep, but it should rise and peak when you wake. The peak, we call that the CAR, spells car, cortisol awakening response. That's that morning peak that gives you the energy to generate alertness and motivation and get up and go. So next time someone says to you, I want to lower my cortisol, just correct them. Cortisol is actually not a bad hormone at all. It's a beautiful hormone. And I am in defense of cortisol all over the place. I jump into Facebook groups and I'm like, darling, you want cortisol. Cortisol is amazing. It's what makes you leap out of bed in the morning. Look after your cortisol. So most women don't realize this. But when they have dysregulation in the HPA-TG axis, the axis upon which all of our hormones are orchestrated, there can be dysregulation there as a result of unrelenting stress on the body. I don't just mean mental and emotional stress. Stress on the body can be any type of stress, chemical, physical stresses as well. That cortisol curve can flatten, it can skew, like it can flip, and it can be the opposite of what it's supposed to be. So what can happen for some women is that cortisol can be very high in the evening when it's meant to be low, and then it's going to fail to peak in the morning. Well, for other women, it can just be flatlined altogether, right? Still flat in the morning when they'd like their cortisol to be nice and high, when they need it most, when they want to leap out of bed and start their day. So you can imagine in this situation where it's not supporting you in the curve that it ought to, where cortisol is, where this rhythm is kind of flipped. The most common scenario is that the cortisol curve is flipped and cortisol is high at night and then it's low in the morning. So that's never going to generate a kind of environment where you're going to feel awake first thing in the morning. And more hours in bed isn't going to bring the energy that you're looking for, because underneath it all, we've got a rhythm that's broken and isn't as it's meant to be. Now, when I say more hours in bed isn't going to help you, I don't mean, I'm not giving you a permission slip to get away with 5 hours and doom scroll until midnight and then get up at 5 and go to the gym. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you don't need plenty of sleep, plenty of time in bed, because naturally you still want a minimum of 8 hours if you are healing your hormones. What I'm trying to tell you is that the exhaustion you feel when you wake up is not a sleep quantity problem. It's a hormonal rhythm problem. Does that make sense? And hormonal rhythms, when they are skewed, when they're not working as they are, then they need to be reset. You have a skewed rhythm here. More sleep isn't going to fix it. If you have a broken clock, just letting the clock rest for a little while isn't going to bring it back to life, but you could get in and you could repair the mechanisms. Okay? So if this is making sense to you so far and you're kind of going, oh, right, now I understand why more sleep and the naps I'm taking and the earlier to bed and the later to wake up isn't making me feel any better, give me a little emoji. Give me a thumbs up, or you can give me a love heart. Let me know that you're still listening. Let me know you're still with me. I'm about to take a dive into the hormone stuff, but I just want to know that you're still here with me so far and understanding that basic premise of why more time in bed isn't going to make you feel better yet. All right. Oh, Dushka's here. Hello, darling. Dushka's been following along for a little while. Okay, so now I want to talk about, thank you for saying hello. Now I want to talk about hormones that are stacking and compounding the problem. All right, we're going to talk about growth hormone, progesterone, melatonin, insulin. Taking a little bit of a deeper dive. Stay with me. Okay, good. Oh, Tiffany's here. Hi, darling. It's nice to see you here. Okay, Natalie's still with us. Good. Glad. So, let's take a deeper dive into hormonal stuff that's going on overnight so that you understand a few other mechanisms. Let's take the scenario of a really common, the type of woman who comes to see me. Women who come to work with me are not uneducated women. They know a lot. I have women in the Radiant Health Reset who are clinical nutritionists. They are naturopaths, yoga instructors. I have had, oh gosh, I'm trying to think now. I've got a functional medicine practitioner doing Radiant Health Reset with me right now. Like, these are knowledgeable women. They're not women who don't come with any information. These are women who are actually practitioners out there who are still coming to fix their health issues. Because just because you're a health practitioner or just because you know a lot about health, it doesn't mean that you always know how to apply it, right? So women who come to me often already have investigated how they can fix their sleep, but it still hasn't worked. They've already started to apply good sleep hygiene, right? If you haven't heard of sleep hygiene before, don't beat yourself up. But sleep hygiene is very critical to a sound sleep. It's not going to fix the type of hormonal problems that we're talking about today, but it's still important. So they might already be going to bed at 9 p.m. They might have a solid wind down routine. They might be aware of the LAN in their house, which is the light at night in their house. Might have bought blackout curtains. They're not doom scrolling. They've got the phone out of the room, right? They've eaten their last meal at an appropriate time to optimize their sleep because they understand how digestion impacts sleep. So they might have covered all of it and ticked all the boxes there, but they are still also waking up wrecked. So I want you to understand the important hormonal stack compounding hormonally what's going on, because it's not just cortisol. And it's not just cortisol, melatonin, right? There's more to it. It would be fair to say, though, that cortisol is like kicking it all off. It would be fair to say that cortisol is like the domino that knocks down all the other dominoes, like the first domino in the pile, the first domino in the row that knocks over everything after it. So 4 different mechanisms I'm going to talk you through now. And the first is that if we have elevated cortisol overnight, which is going to challenge us in many different ways, but one of those ways is it suppresses growth hormone. This is a big problem. Growth hormone is our primary tissue repair, regeneration signal. It's a primary peptide. It's released in pulses during our deep sleep. and our deep sleep, especially the first few hours after we go to sleep, which is when we get that repair part of our sleep. If your cortisol is elevated during that time or spiking in that window, it shuts down growth hormone, and then the repair work can't happen. So why do you care about this? You might go, oh, no big deal. No, you should care about this, because if you are sleeping poorly and waking up exhausted, you are missing the hormonal window where fat burning and muscle repair and collagen production and brain restoration are all happening. And if you care about your appearance, which most women who come to work with me do, they often care more about their appearance than they do about being resilient to disease. I'm very motivated to help women be resilient to disease because I take a stand against the 1 in 2 cancer rate. It is unacceptable to me and it's unnecessary. But a lot of women who come to me are looking more to look better, and that's okay. Whatever motivates you, darling, I'll work with that, right? But you should care about the suppression of growth hormone when you're not sleeping well overnight, when you're not getting deep restorative sleep. By the way, you might think you sleep just fine, but if you're waking up exhausted in the morning, we're not getting the restoration. We're getting plenty of hours, but we're not getting the right sleep architecture. So that's the first one I want you to know about, is growth hormone suppression. Number 2, I want you to understand how progesterone is relevant here. If you are watching me, if you follow me, if you work with me, you're either in perimenopause or menopause, is most often the case. So progesterone for you is either declining rapidly right now, or it's already rock bottom. And you may have had to reach to, a hormone replacement therapy or some type of support, Chase Tree Berry, Vitex, that kind of thing. Or maybe you're not doing any of that at all right now. But I want you to understand that progesterone has a very calming, almost sedating effect. It's very supportive of GABA, which is one of our primary calming neurotransmitters. When we lose access to progesterone, our sleep is going to get lighter, more fragmented, and it's not going to be the productive deep sleep that we're aiming for. So the tie back to cortisol here, I said cortisol was the master domino. Cortisol, chronically elevated cortisol, is robbing you of the little progesterone that you have by way of this pregnenolone steal. It's robbing you of that, the little that you've got left in perimenopause, or the little that you're making use of through the supports that you have. Good question, Jenny. Stay tuned. We'll talk about sleep architecture and how much. Good question, though. Jenny's asking already about how many hours of deep sleep we need, which I'll talk about in just a moment once I've taken a deep dive into different important hormonal mechanisms that are happening overnight. So the third, though, I want to talk about is melatonin. Melatonin, what an amazing substance melatonin is. One of my favorite molecules, melatonin, because it's not just a hormone, it's also an antioxidant. Isn't that exciting? It's also a neurotransmitter. Melatonin just has such an incredible effect on the body, but we know melatonin primarily as our sleepy hormone. Well, cortisol and melatonin have this kind of antagonistic relationship. Picture them like a seesaw, if you like. When cortisol is high, we'll make this one cortisol, melatonin is low. And when melatonin is high, then cortisol is low. Well, really, you'd like that seesaw to support your sleep. If melatonin and cortisol have an antagonistic relationship, and you got a whole lot of stress in your life, and as a result of that stress in your life, then cortisol is elevated, what's it going to do to melatonin? Well, it's going to blunt it. Now, the problem with women who are living with a skewed cortisol curve is that their cortisol can be very high in the evening, when we'd really prefer melatonin to be high to make them sleepy. But, in the evening, it's like this, and melatonin's down here. And then as the night goes on and they're getting closer to waking up, we're getting to 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and really we would like cortisol to be nice and high, but instead what we've got is, because we've got a skewed cortisol rhythm, cortisol's now down here, melatonin is high, because they're like a seesaw. So you feel sleepy and you just want to go straight back to sleep. You can't take supplemental melatonin just to try and address elevated cortisol. It doesn't work like that. Cortisol wins every single time. There's no contest. Don't fool yourself that there is. Cortisol is a survival hormone. If cortisol wants to be high because you told your body, because of the environment you created, that cortisol needs to be high, cortisol is going to be high. And you are not going to be able to melatonin your way out of that situation. So, number 4, the fourth hormonal mechanism that I want you guys to understand here is insulin resistance. If your blood sugar is unstable overnight and your body is spending the night trying to manage the glucose, because your body knows that having a lot of glucose in your blood is dangerous, and your body knows that having your glucose drop too low is also dangerous. It wants to manage it in that tight little range, that tight little window. If your body's busy doing that, then it's not running repair programs. So again, you should care about this, because repair, even if you're not as concerned about resisting disease and creating a body that's resilient to disease as I am, repair is also your anti-aging, your anti, gain weight, right? That's what we talk about. It's repairing tissue in your body. It's helping you build muscle. It's helping you recover from your exercise. So you should care either way, even if you're not thinking as long-term and you're thinking more about your physical appearance. So I just covered growth hormone, progesterone, melatonin, insulin. They're all impacted here. They're all both cause and effect of what's going on with our sleep, whether we're sleeping well or not. They stack, they exacerbate, they compound the problem. It sounds like bad news, doesn't it? But what I'm trying to show you is that each one of these is also a lever. And if you support the foundations, what are the foundations? Food and stress and toxins and sleep and movement, all the stuff that we do in the Radiant Health Reset program. If you support your foundations, then this stack of hormones, this collection of hormones that are all beautifully interconnected, then they start working with you again. Okay? So that's why I wanted you to understand the hormonal mechanisms. Because if you can understand the hormonal mechanisms, and you can care more about this is not something you just go, oh, well, my sleep is shit, or I wake up exhausted, never mind, I'll just push through. No, you should mind. And the reason why you should mind is because it impacts how you look and how you feel, and it impacts your ability to be resilient to disease. And now you understand why, because of these different hormonal mechanisms that are impacted. Okay, so now I just want to talk about the number of hours we spend in bed versus real deep sleep and real repair. This is the sleep architecture piece. This is will answer Jenny's question. And the reason why it's important that I talk about this is because so many women say, I'm in bed for 8 hours. Like, why do I feel like this? It just doesn't make any sense. And what they're not understanding is that the amount of time that you spend in bed, even if you think, oh, I was asleep the whole time, even if your Garmin watch tells you that everything's cool, it doesn't necessarily mean, actually Garmin watches are reasonably good at picking up on deep sleep, but time in bed is not the same as restorative sleep. So your sleep has an ideal structure, and we call it sleep architecture, and there's 4 different stages of sleep. And I'm just going to talk about the 2 most important ones here right now, the ones that you should care about the most. I'm not going to talk too much about the lighter stages of sleep, although they offer very many benefits. I just want to talk about deep sleep, stage 4 sleep. Deep sleep is where physical repair happens. That's tissue regeneration. That's where your immune system function is being brought online. It's when the growth hormone peptides that I talked about are being released, pulsatile. So deep sleep, that's kind of like the maintenance crew are coming in and they're fixing up things. That's what we want. Then I want to talk about REM sleep. That's more cognitive, emotional processing. It's memory repair, it's nervous system regulation. It's like an emotional reset. We're kind of like an emotional detox process that's going on. So the deep sleep is happening in the first part of the night, almost as soon as you drop off. That's your deep sleep dominating there, the physical repair window. And then we've got our REM, rapid eye movement, is dominating mainly the second half. Like I said, there's more than just these two stages, but I just want to talk about these two stages. But the REM is brain emotional restoration. For those of you who are waking up at 3 a.m. and looking at your phone or looking at your alarm clock and going, oh, really? Again? Or it might be 2 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. You're cutting the night in half. And unfortunately, you're not maximizing these two. So that really needs to be addressed. I talk about why that is in lots of other videos. That's not today's primary topic. There's so many things we could talk about when it comes to sleep. You have to join the Radiant Health Reset so that you can be part of our discussions in our open coaching calls. But ideally, 15 to 20% of your night should be in deep sleep, 15 to 20%, and then a little bit more like 20% should be in REM. And the rest of our sleep is the stage 1 and 2, which bring other benefits. But these are the ones I want to talk about right now, because these are the ones that are going to benefit you the most. So when you're waking up at 3 a.m., that's a problem for both your deep sleep, which should be 15 to 20% of your total sleep hours, and your REM sleep, which should be 20-ish percent of your total sleeping hours. Most women in perimenopause or menopause are getting nothing like that in deep sleep, because they're waking and it's interrupting it, and they're spending too much time in stages 1 and 2 of sleep. Those stages are good too, but they're not the ones that you need most right now. They're not the ones that I want you to get into place and have adequate portion. So why are women's sleep architecture, why is their sleep architecture not optimized, not ideal? Because too many women that come to me for help have chronically elevated cortisol. They've got blood sugars swinging around through the night when they're meant to be in these stages of sleep. They are using things to wind down that are not actually serving them, like wine. They have circadian rhythms that have gone off track. They have flipped, skewed curves. And all of these problems, and there are other problems too. Like some women have genuinely poor sleep hygiene as well. They don't realize the things that they're doing that are impacting their sleep. But all of these problems, all of these things that women are doing in their lives are creating problems in their sleep architecture. And so they might be getting time in bed, but the time in bed is not made up of the right components, not made up of the right portions of the 4 different stages of sleep. Especially the deep sleep and the REM sleep is usually what's lacking, and they're getting too much stage 1 and stage 2, and they're not getting the REM and the deep sleep. Okay, the depth isn't there. The good news is the deeper restorative sleep is something we can absolutely rebuild layer by layer. We work on the foundations that impact that the most, that affect it the most. This is exactly the work that I do with my clients. So I hope that this is making sense to you. Really, there are foundations that this nighttime sleep is running on. And I just want to make mention of this, because so many women have tried to throw supplements at the problem. Genuinely, women try to just throw supplements at the problem, and they think that supplements are going to hold the answer for them, but they don't. They'll try a little bit of this, a little bit of that, whatever's trendy right now, whatever's been in their Facebook feed, whatever they Google, whatever Chat GPT is telling them. They'll try, oh, magnesium glycinate. I read that was good. It is good. It's not going to fix this problem. They'll be like, oh, I'll try some L-theanine. I'll try some ashwagandha. I just want to read Jenny's comment here. Jenny is saying, even though I'm a shift worker and I rarely get 8 hours of sleep, since doing the Radiant Health Reset, I have found my recovery, particularly after a late shift, my recovery is much better. Woo! Love hearing that, Jenny. That is so, so good. Not to mention, Jenny is having some fabulous wins with her body composition too, which we love seeing. She's been sharing her photos with our community. Love seeing it, Jenny. Your progress is amazing. So throwing supplements at the problem isn't going to fix it. And it can also be an issue for your liver, right? And the liver is really at the heart of some of our sleeping problems. Your liver is doing primary detoxification work overnight. A congested, burdened liver is going to take you in the opposite direction of what you want. So don't just throw supplements at this if you don't understand what's really going on, the hormonal imbalances that are really needing repair, because your body's not going to be able to do that deep clean and deeply repair at the same time if it's overwhelmed and overburdened and trying to manage the supplement load that you're throwing in there. Supplements need to be used wisely. A lot of the time women are using adaptogens and the adaptogens are working against them. You know, there are raw materials that are needed to support sleep architecture, but they're not always the ones that women are trying, okay? And in the Radiant Health Reset, we get it right with a very simple structure around supplement support. A lot of women are surprised that we get the results that we do with such simple supplement support, but it's because the answer is not in the supplements, it's in everything else. Supplements just come in as a little supportive tool, but they're not the answer. And I just want to say as well, a lot of the women that come to me are malnourished. They are severely deficient in certain nutrients. I wish I could say it was the exception, but it's not. Unfortunately, it's the norm. And we're not going to throw supplements at that problem either. I'm going to teach them how to nourish themselves because that is what needs to happen so they can live long and healthy lives. A body that is depleted of nutrients and then loaded up with toxins, depleted of nutrients, but then she's using wine to try and wind down and get off to sleep at night. And then that wine is destroying her sleep architecture. The repair program isn't going to run efficiently, no matter how long you lay in bed for, okay? But the good news is it's all fixable. Give your body the right raw materials, lighten the load, and then what's happening overnight can happen in the right proportion, in the right order, and your body can do the job that it needs to do. And this is exactly what we do inside the Radiant Health Reset. Now, Radiant Health Reset doors are closed currently. We are not opening the doors now for a little while. We are currently we're just holding for a little while. So if you would like to go on the waiting list to join us in Radiant Health Reset, you need to let me know. We can have a little conversation about that and talk about when we can open the doors again to Radiant Health Reset. If you comment Radiant in big capital letters, I will reach out to you. One of my team members will reach out to you and we can talk about how we can make that happen. But yes, I hope that this has been very valuable to you and that you understand now that more hours in bed isn't going to fix a hormonal issue. So the number of hours you spend in bed were probably never part of this problem. Your body's asking for a different kind of help. And now you understand what that is and you know what the answer is as well. So I thank you very much for joining me today. I can't wait to come back here next week and share with you another interesting topic. Until then, I wish you all the most wonderful, restful sleep and happy mornings full of joy where you bound out of bed. Bye now. See you later, everyone.